Today we're down on the Campaspe River, 100 kilometres north of Melbourne, to explore the amazing story of the Redesdale Bridge. Have you ever wondered why there's such an impressive bridge on a secondary road way out in rural Victoria?
Apart from its striking appearance, this bridge has a fascinating history. It shares a connection with the Hawthorn Bridge in Melbourne, an 1850s ship fire, and a parliamentary scandal.
We're going to explore the incredible story of how the beautiful ironwork from this bridge was salvaged from the sea floor over 160 years ago. The story starts way back in 1857, when the Central Roads Board advertised for a tenderer to build the piers of a bridge across the Yarra River at Hawthorn, just to the east of Melbourne. These were finished early the next year, but the wrought iron for the bridge had to be ordered from Scotland. It didn't arrive for another 18 months.
It came on the passenger ship Herald of the Morning. Much of the ironwork was stored in the hull, but the larger pieces were tied onto the deck. This must have been an inconvenience to the 419 passengers, as there was already limited deck space. The extra 350 tonnes of iron, along with the passengers and their luggage on a ship of 1,292 tonnes, would also have made it a little top heavy. However, the ship arrived at Port Melbourne without incident and all the passengers disembarked.
That evening, the captain awoke to someone shouting, "Fire!" The Herald of the Morning had caught a light, and despite all their efforts, they could not put out the blaze. Their only option was to scuttle the ship, and they set about cutting holes in the hull below the waterline. They then used tugs to tow the ship away from the pier, where it burnt until it sank in shallow water.
Assuming all was lost, another bridge was ordered, and in 1861 the Hawthorn Bridge was finally opened.
Meanwhile, a salvage company named Ingalls, Adams and Gresham sent divers down to recover the ironwork. They found it was still in remarkably good condition, despite the fact that it had been through a fire and left on the seafloor for some time.
Although the ironwork had cost £10,500, the salvage company were prepared to sell it for £6,000. They engaged in negotiations to sell the ironwork to the government, but they foolishly attempted to bribe the Inspector General Thomas Higginbotham in hopes of sealing the deal. This caused quite a scandal. The sale fell through, and Ingalls, Adams and Gresham were removed from the list of government contractors. So instead they sold it to an iron foundry for only £2,000, who in turn sold the best of it to the shires of Mackay and Metcalfe for just £1,000. What a deal! They had purchased a bridge worth £6,000 for a mere fraction of the price.
There was enough ironwork recovered in good condition to have built the Hawthorn Bridge, as the span of the Redesdale Bridge is 55 metres, while the longest span of the Hawthorn Bridge is only 45 metres. So if Hawthorn had waited until the salvage operation was over, they could have completed the bridge cheaper and quicker than by reordering new materials.
But Hawthorn's loss was Redesdale's gain, and this beautiful bridge was opened on the 23rd of January 1868. It was summer, and that night the locals held an open-air ball on the bridge. There is something interesting here which many people wouldn't realise. This plaque says the bridge was completed in 1867. It was certainly meant to be, but construction went overtime and the bridge wasn't opened until early the following year.
Although the ironwork for this bridge was purchased for only £1,000, If you add transportation costs from Melbourne, the bridge piers and the approaches, the total came to about £6,000.
These arches were originally made high to allow the tall wool wagons to travel beneath them. There's no pedestrian walkway here because at the time this bridge was built, traffic was much slower and people could see what was coming before they walked across.
This photograph of the bridge was taken in 1877 by my great-great-grandfather Charles Nettleton. He was a Melbourne photographer. He was taking a series of photos for the Shire of Metcalfe, who wanted to promote their shire at the upcoming Paris International Exhibition of 1878. What they hoped to achieve is hard to know, but Nettleton was a smart businessman. After the Shire paid him for the photographs, he kept the negatives and continued to sell more prints.
This photo could have been taken anywhere on this steep hill, but this is the only flat spot free of stones. Exactly what Nettleton needed for his tripod.
The iron lattice makes it easy to find the spot, as we can compare the ironwork to get the location correct. I came here with my parents in 1976, 99 years after the original photograph was taken, and we took the same view. As you can see, there were a lot less trees then, but this one is still here today.
In the background of Nettleton's photo, we can also see a gold mine. Gold was discovered here at Redesdale in May 1870 by Walter Simmons and party from Creswick, who noticed something interesting in this road cutting. They found alluvial material exposed here, which they quickly sampled, confirming their hopes. It contained gold. Simmons and party registered a prospecting claim, and the wash dirt was traced up the hill and beneath this basalt. Several shafts were put down, and gold was found in wash dirt of red gravel which lay on a bottom of white pipe clay. Later in the year, it was reported that a party of 9 men had driven an adit into the bank, and after driving about 120 feet, they struck payable wash dirt. While yields were only moderate at first, the wash soon improved, and they were getting half an ounce to the load. We can still see the mullock left from this adit today.
Redesdale was named after Gold Commissioner Robert Reid. He was in charge of the police camps at Kingour, Malayagal and Jones's Creek before being transferred to Ballarat, where the rest is history.
Reid was in charge of the police at Ballarat during the famous Eureka Uprising in 1854, which is why the town of Redesdale was named after him.
Many years later, as Sheriff of Melbourne, Robert Reid was the chief witness to the execution of notorious bushranger Ned Kelly. If you found this video interesting, be sure to follow our channel to discover more of Victoria's lesser-known history.